we go. So now I know all of you are greatly disappointed that Baylor has had to not play this weekend against Louisiana Tech because of the hurricane, and all their football players have been getting COVID because they were out after the hurricane. I know that is disappointing to all of you as it is to me. We'll have to wait another week for Baylor football to start, but I'm counting that as a win. Sick 'em Bears. Not that the COVID, but that we didn't lose. Right? If you don't lose, it's a win, right? I'm going with that. So today we're going to look at the behavior of buyers. So look at this commercial. Uh-oh. I guess you guys can look at that commercial. I need to turn the screen on. That'll take us a second. So I want you to look at this commercial, and whenever it does actually come on. And I want us to think through, why would this sell cars? Right? So buyer behavior. So today we're going to look at the process it takes that buyers go through to buy anything that they buy. And for you out there, we are pausing for the screen to come up so that the guys in the classroom can see it, because I was foolish and didn't notice that it wasn't on. Aha, here we go. So
that's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm going to see that soon. When I'm back on top.
The road through life is full of bumps and unexpected twists and turns.
And as funny as it may seem,
Toyota has always been committed to making the journey as smooth as possible. So although we at Toyota have a new symbol, our commitment is the same.
why would that sell cars? Push, there you go. Why would that sell cars?
Your mode of transportation.
But don't we expect accidents in Toyotas when we drive this? The interesting thing about this is they are not trying to get you to buy a Toyota through this commercial. It is not aimed to get people to buy cars. In fact, you may never have seen a new car commercial that was trying to get you to buy a car. Well, why would they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year on new car commercials if they're not trying to get you to buy cars? Well, to understand that, we have to understand the buyer behavior process. So let's think of this. How does a person decide anything? How do they decide, for example, to believe? What leads a person to suddenly have faith in Christ? How much knowledge do they have? You know, it's interesting that in the scriptures, it looks like no one became a Christian before they were about the age of 18. That's interesting. In fact, psychologists tell us that until about the age of 10, somewhere between, depends on people, some are 10, some are 13, people don't even begin to think abstractly. So if you can't conceive of God, you believe in God because your parents told you about God, but actually being able to think abstractly, that's an interesting thing. So how about this one? Does somebody have to pray to be saved? I love the story of Philip with the Ethiopian eunuch riding down the road in the chariot, and Philip is telling the Ethiopian eunuch about Christ, and the eunuch says, well, here's water, can I get baptized? And Philip says, no, you have to be a believer. And he says, I am one. So he baptizes him. He didn't even lead the guy in a prayer. And yet he believed. Interesting. Let's pray. Father, we lift up to you our understanding of how people make decisions and how people go through that decision process to buy things. help us understand it, because we all want to convince people of our ideas, our bosses. We want to be, market ourselves well. Help us to understand this stuff. We also pray, Lord, for the people in Oregon and in California and the people who are experiencing all those fires out west. And we lift up our country to you, which is in such dire straits right now. We pray for your mercy. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so this sound here, let me go over here. I think I need to stop share, start share. Let me go over here. Okay, did anybody ever have a Tickle Me Elmo? This is the TMX model, which was like the fourth model they came out with. This one, they got to fall down and get back up. This, after this went on sale, the shelves were cleaned out after 2 hours. And 3 hours later on eBay, you could buy one of these things for $1,500. They're selling the store for $100, and people were buying them up like mad. And you're thinking, I would like to invent a product where people would be that fanatical about a product. So that sounds interesting. So let's think through this. We've got a bunch of advertisements that seek to get us to buy stuff. Right? So let's look at a few commercials. Try that again. Hold on. I've got to do that. Stop share. I'll be doing this a good bit today.
When Cutie Katie makes a scene, she wears a smile brush 3 ways clean.
Cleaner breath, cleaner face, cleaner teeth, 3 ways clean is Colgate Clean.
When handsome Harry joins the session, he makes a real cool 3-way impression.
Cleaner breath, cleaner taste, cleaner teeth, 3 ways clean is Colgate Clean.
In your mouth, trouble can start with trapped food particles that attract decay bacteria, producing decay acids. Colgate with activated Gardol foams as you brush, helps foam away food.
Y'all ever heard of Gardol before? What chemical is Gardol? That is just a made-up name. Fascinating.
Food, decay bacteria, and decay acids. Regular Colgate brushing for most people instantly helps stop bad breath that starts in the mouth.
I had the Colgate girl and boy.
Brush 3 ways clean to both enjoy.
Cleaner breath, cleaner taste, cleaner teeth, 3 ways clean is Colgate Clean.
Help fight decay with Colgate.
3 ways clean is Colgate Clean.
What stage of the product life cycle is that in? We got a test coming up, right? So you guys who are sitting here, you got a test next Friday, and those who are online, they've got their test on Wednesday. This got to come. So what stage in the product life cycle is this? Why? How do you know? No, that's a good guess, but no. Think back to the criteria, what we promote in the introduction cycle. Okay, so first we've got the benefits, and then the how to use it, how it works, right? The 2 things for promotion. These things need to snap to you, right? So, it does 3 things. What are they? Cleaner teeth, cleaner breath, cleaner taste. Now, that's pretty good for watching a commercial once. Now, what was the name of the girl? Nobody remembers? Cutie Katie. And what was the guy? Handsome Harry. Yeah, that's good advertisement that can get you to remember with just that. All right, let's try this one. I gotta. You want to switch around?
Hello, amigo. I'm Chiquita Banana, and I've come to say bananas have to ripen in a certain way, and when they're flecked with brown and have a golden hue, bananas taste the best and are the best for you. You can put them in a salad, you can put them in a pie, any way you want to eat them. It's impossible to beat them, but bananas like the climate of the very, very tropical equator. So you should never put bananas in the refrigerator. To have bananas that are fully ripe, you must be absolutely sure to take them home and let them ripen at a temperature.
Oh, sure.
So do you hear the introduction phase there? People in the United States didn't eat bananas. This is back in the 30s, and we didn't have the mass transit going on. And Chiquita Banana started a system to deliver bananas to grocery stores all over the United States. Well, imagine you're in Iowa. You have no idea what a banana is, right? And there are these yellow things. You don't know what to do with it. Well, to preserve an apple, what's the best way to eat an apple? Cold. Put it in the fridge. Ruin a banana that way. So we tell you how to use it, right? And what the benefits of it are. Yeah. So try this one.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
Really smart. Enough. All right, so consumer behavior. How do consumers behave? Now, instead of writing the first one down, get the definition down here at the bottom. So it is the process that a buyer goes through, the ultimate purchaser goes through to buy a product. And I will suggest to you that every single time you buy anything, you go through this process. Whether it's a piece of chewing gum or whether it's a car, you go through these steps. Now, some of them you go through very quickly, and some of them you may go through very slowly, but there are 6 steps in the buyer behavior process. And you say 6. I remember 6 lines on a piece of paper. The quiz, yes. After this, you guys are going to be ready for quiz, but I tell you what, let's do it after the test, because you got enough to learn during the next week. All right? Oh, let me throw this out to you. So the stuff that I'm covering today won't be on the test. It's on the second test, not the first test. So although on the study guide, the last thing on the study guide asks about the consumer behavior process, I'm not going to require that of you. Okay? So, now let me also say, in my lectures, I teach you a lot of things that are not on the test. Right? So I test the questions that are on the study guide. So go after those things, and those are the things you want to make sure you get down. Right? So this is the process. Now we could look at this process like this. Step, you go phases. I could have drawn this to where it's steps, like to get up to a platform, or I could have made it like a hill that you climb. But these are the 6 steps that we go through when we buy a product. First, problem opportunity recognition. You will not buy anything unless you go through this step. Because unless you realize I got a problem that I need to buy something to solve that problem, or I've got an opportunity to make my life better by buying this product, you're not going to buy it. So for example, God forbid, let's say one of you has cancer, but you're not getting treated for it. Why? Because you don't know that you have the problem. But if suddenly you found out that you've got that problem, you would do all sorts of research and you would spend all kinds of money on medicine to try to cure the cancer, right? So first thing we have to do is help you understand there's a problem. And so one of the things marketers do is they help you identify a need or a desire that you have, a problem that you have that needs a solution or an opportunity. Number 2, once you recognize that problem or opportunity, you start searching for solutions. Now, this search can go 2 ways. So, for example, it can go from problem opportunity recognition down to search and then go back up to the problem recognition, because when I'm searching, I need some clarity on what the problem is. I'm thirsty. Well, do I want something hot or something cold? Do I want something carbonated or uncarbonated? So I analyze myself as part of the search process. And then I seek out solutions to the problem. Now, I should say this. What a marketer uses this for is that at every stage of the consumer buying process, I want you to end that stage on my product. Right? So you're searching. I don't want you to search and you find a competitor's product, you don't find my product. So, for example, in the search stage, who drove to work, who drove to school today? All right, did you pass any billboards? You remember any of them? Yeah, well, you know why? Because you weren't searching for those products. Billboards are really, really good for the search process. They're terrible for problem opportunity recognition. Right? So I don't see a billboard, and in 7 to 10 words, in the 7 seconds I'm going to see that billboard, determine that I better go find a solution. They're terrible, but they're very good if you've already recognized you got a problem. So for example, if you were looking for a car, because your car's running down, and you see a billboard and it's for Piedmont used cars, you're going to notice it because you're looking for it. Okay? So search, what the search process does is lead down to alternative evaluation. So I look at all the different possibilities that are out there, and I narrow those down in the search process to about 3 or 4.
Dr. Spencer, I have a question.
Yeah, shoot.
So just, I think it was last class period, you talked about how billboards can be effective for like local marketing, like like the Smoking Pig.
Yes.
But like, what if you looked at a company like McDonald's and they had their fries on their billboard while you're driving down the interstate, and you weren't hungry, but you see that and now you're hungry? Is that like you weren't searching for food, but you see this billboard and now you want food?
Yeah, that's a good question. And in part, what you're saying there probably is trying to spur this problem opportunity in people's minds. Right? At the same time, it's going to hand you to search, go to McDonald's, and moving you toward that evaluation, I want McDonald's fries. So exclusively billboards are not for search, but almost generally this is the goal of them. Does that help?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet. So we get down here to alternative evaluation. So I'm getting close to deciding. So here, the marketer works on the basis for your purchase decision. And that basis is the criteria for you to choose which product. I know 3 or 4, but when I get here, I'm going to decide on one. So let's say, for example, you went into Staples and you needed some software to prevent viruses. So you pick up a box of Kaspersky and you look at the back of the box, and on the back of the box, it looks like this. And then it will have Norton. And then it will have McAfee. Which one should I pick? Well, Kaspersky handles everything, right? Yeah, but if you had picked up a McAfee box, it would have looked like this. Right? But the criteria are different. So what we do at the alternate evaluation stage, when you pick that up, it's should I use McAfee or Kaspersky? They're going to try to tell you the criteria you ought to use to pick. So should I buy based on miles per gallon? If the vehicle you're looking at has worse miles per gallon than its competitor, they're going to talk about cargo space. Right? Because and you don't decide based on miles per gallon, you decide based on cargo space. Right? If it's a truck, you don't decide based on its pulling power because the other guy pulls more. Look at the way that we've got this new rear thing to open the trunk up that has steps on it, or that pulls out like a door. Right? We're going to give you the criteria that you ought to use. So you look through this criteria and you decide. Now you notice that I separate the purchase decision from the purchase act. Some marketing textbook put them both together, but I separate them because in general I find that the purchase decision is different. So let me give you an example. Who's bought a used car lately? Okay, so after you look through the car, maybe test drove it, did they take you to this little room that was kind of glass?
This was under a little used car box.
Oh, okay. Did you buy one? Did they take you to a room? Little room, and the salesperson is in there, right? So the salesperson comes in and they'll do something like this. So you want to buy this Mustang. And it's a 2004 Mustang. And you only want to pay $12,000. I can't imagine the boss going to $12,000. You know, I like it. I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to go to the sales manager and I'm going to tell him that we really need to sell this car to you. And of course, it's got 365,000 miles on it. But 12,000, you know, 12,000. I don't know. And you want 4 new tires because the tires are bald. You know, we have never given 4 new tires away. And I think you're right. We ought to give you a car with new tires on it. So I'm going to go fight for the boss for you. But what I need is I need your signature to show that if I can get this for you, you'll buy it. So will you sign right there so I can prove to my boss that you'll sign, that you'll buy it. Okay, sign right there. So he takes that piece of paper and he walks into the boss's office and says, 12,000. He's all, I didn't think we'd get 6 for that clunker. 12,000. And they laugh. And then they start talking about the Braves. You think they're going to hit 24 home runs or 24 runs next week. And, you know, and they're just talking about, and while they're doing that, they're looking at a television screen that has you on there from the monitor. And they're watching your reactions. And you'll be like, this is how people are. It's like, oh, I hope I get this car. That is, the Mustang is so cool. And the 2004 is the best ever. I really want that car. But it does have 365,000 miles on it. Oh, but I'm sure that it's a great engine. That Mustang's got the greatest engine ever. Oh, I hope it. Tires. I don't want to spend some more money on tires. Oh, I hope I get that car. I hope I get that car. It does have that dent in it. Oh, but it's blue. Like I really, and our emotions just go back and forth, and they're watching you. They're looking at your facial expressions, right? And then after a while, when they've watched you enough, the salesperson comes back like this. Yes, I got it for you. Is that kind of close? Relatively. That's a standard tactic, especially for used cars. Standard tactic. Now, she has to buy the car, right? She signed, right? This is worthless. This is not a legal document. So why did I have her sign it? What's that?
Make her feel obligated.
So she feels obligated. And I've got to get you to sign 7 documents where you're going to spend an awful lot of money. And the hardest one is the first one. Right? It's like they tell you in the movies, your first kill is the hardest one. And then after that, it gets easier to kill people. Same thing here. Once you've signed, you're emotionally committed to that. And you've already signed. So when you go to really sign, it's not as big a deal. Because I've got you to sign something. And yet, you think it's valid. So I move you to purchase. I get you to act. Now, we separate these two. Who likes Coke? Wait, remind me.
Caroline.
Caroline, that's right. So it's so hard with these masks. Usually by now I know everybody's name. But so Caroline, you like Coke. So you go into Walmart. And as you're pushing a cart in Walmart, there's a Coke display, case of Coke for $5.99. Right? So you pick one up, put it in your cart. You walk all the way around Walmart doing all your shopping, right? And then you come up to the registers, and there is a Pepsi display. 10 cases for $5.99. Are you going to buy Pepsi? 10 for one? Really? You are a very devout Coke. How many of you would probably switch to the Pepsi? Yeah, that's a deal, right? So, and then we've got those hardcore Coke drinkers. So anyway, so let's just say you did buy the 10. So you load up your cart. So what are you going to do with the Cokes? Well, you got to take them all the way back around Walmart and put it back on the Coke display, right? He says, no, he doesn't think you're going to do that. What do you think she's going to do? So you're going to put it on the Pepsi display, right? How many times you walk out of Walmart and as you're walking by the Hallmark cards, there are all kinds of things stuffed in the little corners, right? Where people decided and then undecided. So this is why at the register, we have impulse items. Because we don't want you to walk around the store because you'll undecide. So we need to, as soon as you decide to buy, we need to ring you up and purchase that thing. So for example, let's say the Globe magazine. Right? You know what the Globe is? Got all those outlandish headlines. Prince Charles is, Anyway, how about you're going to Walmart, and as you walk down, you're at the register, you see the thing, you read the headline, and it says, Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton have a secret baby. And you're like, I knew those two were in cahoots. And you're like, oh, I need to read about that. Right? So you pick that thing up, and then you sit down, and they ring it up quick. And when they first came out, the register people were taught, you stop putting anything else in the register and ring in that Globe magazine so that people don't undecided. Imagine what it would be like if they had that back in the magazine racks. You'd pick that baby up, you'd look at it, put it in your cart, and you start walking around the store, and then you start thinking, I really don't want anybody to see me that I have this thing with Biden and Hillary having a baby. and you take it out and you set it somewhere. Right? So when you decide, I need to get you to polish. Post-purchase evaluation. Well, let me back you up. So when I left CenturyLink to go teach, I got the package and the offer in May. The recruiting season for college professors is now. Right? So in January and February, final offers are given for next August. Right? And this is just how it works. Because we work on this semester system, and you can't just suddenly quit and start working. So that's kind of how the thing works. Well, I was in May, so I couldn't go through the normal process. So what I was left with, who didn't get anybody and who's desperate, right? So there were about 5 or 6 schools, and really the best and closest one was Belhaven College in Jackson, Mississippi, which was 2 hours away from Monroe, Louisiana. So I accepted the offer and started driving when August came. I took the summer off. When August came, I started driving 2 hours one way every day to teach and then to come back. It was actually very relaxing to me after the strain, the pressure that I had in my last job. It was wonderful. I loved it. And I got home in time to pick up the kids from soccer. So it was great. So I started to do that, and it's like, I'm going to wear my car out. I got a nice car, and I'm going to put so many miles on it, it's crazy. So I decided I was going to buy me a cheap car that I could ruin in 2 years, because I decided we'd stay there 2 years, then we start looking, where do we want to be full-time forever? And so I'm looking, and my wife needed a van. Her van was falling apart. And so, soccer mom. And so, that's true. A soccer mom and a physician at the same time. Anyway, so she needed a new van. So we agreed that Jackson's a lot bigger than Monroe, Louisiana, that I would find a car there for both of us. So I'm searching around for 3 months and finally find a great deal on a great van. I'd gone through, I'd looked on the web and found out what had the best gas mileage, safety ratings, luxury comfort, all this kind of stuff. Found the van, negotiated the price of the van. I bought the van, and I'm driving home with the van. And I called my wife up and I say, honey, I bought you a van. What do you mean you bought me a van? I bought you a van. You're going to love it. It's great. It's got this and this and this and this. She said, I haven't been looking for cars. Well, no, we agreed. You remember that I'd look. It had been 3 months. She'd forgotten that I'd look and find the car, and then I'd get it for us. And she was like, oh, well, I haven't been looking for cars. So I hung up the phone, and I'm not kidding you. 20 minutes later, she calls me. Joe, I bought your car. What? What do you mean you bought me a car? Yeah, I got out. As soon as I hung up, I got in the car and I drove to the lot, the first lot nearest our home. The first car she saw, she purchased without test driving. She was in and out 20 minutes, driving back to our house, calls me telling me she bought me a car. How fast or how slow you go through this process depends on whether it is a high involvement decision or a low involvement decision. And for me, buying a van for my wife was a very high involvement decision. I was like, if I get her a bad van, I'm in trouble. But buying a car for me was a very low involvement decision for her. 20 minutes. Right? So what kind of car did you get me? I got you a Chevy Cavalier. I had never heard of the Chevy Cavalier. You know how you get biases and prejudices from your parents about products? So my dad believed that Chevrolets were for lower middle class people and Buicks and Pontiacs are for upper middle class people. Now, I know that's stupid, but that, you know, that's what he taught, right? And so I had never looked at a Chevy. Never. So I didn't know any of their models. So a Cavalier, what color is it? Gold. Gold? Yep. Okay. So I drove that car to Jackson, Mississippi the next day. And on my, I had no idea that that Cavalier was the best-selling car in the United States for the past 10 years. Didn't know. I didn't pay any attention to Cavaliers. On my way to Belhaven, I counted that as I passed 28 Cavaliers on the way there. 28. Now it tells you how fast I drive. And you know, I told you before, I drive with my knee, right? Because I'm busy doing other things. And which of course means do not drive near me. So anyway, I got pulled over once. I shouldn't tell you this. I got pulled over once. I was your age. I got pulled over for reading a book while I was driving. You know, the cop pulls up, he's driving beside me and I'm reading. And for grad school for a test, you know, I'm reading. And he, you know, I'm looking over at him. He's looking at me and looking at me, looking at me, pulls me over. Didn't give me a ticket. He told me never to do it again. So I never have. Read a book. Oh, I'm getting in trouble. Anyway, so I drive to Belhaven and I pull into the parking lot. Now, at Belhaven, I had my own parking space. Imagine that. So it didn't matter when I got there, I had my parking place. Here, if I get here after 8, well, there's still parking over at the athletic center. Good luck. Thanks. Anyway, I feel valued. So I pull into my parking place. I get out of the car and I look at the car next to me. It's a gold Cavalier. I had never noticed a Cavalier. I had never noticed a gold car, but suddenly I saw every car that was gold. And I saw every, what car did you buy? Oh, what? Sportage? And what color? When did you buy it? Okay, so do you remember after you bought it that you kind of saw every Sportage? Yeah, and all the cars that were the same color as yours? Because what we're trying to do is a post-purchase evaluation. Did I get a good deal? Do I like it? I'm going to evaluate what I got. Now, you may not know, or you may know, that at 24, I think it's 26 on average, of every 100 cars, new cars sold in the United States, goes back to the dealer for something to be fixed. Now, it may be a spring that, you know, the seat pulls back and forward and a spring didn't get hooked on. So most of the things are fixed in 5 minutes, right? But 24 out of 100 cars go back. So a car dealership will tell you that your next purchase for a car starts the moment you bought your car. Because you're going to evaluate, do I like this car? Do I like this brand? Do I like this dealership? So if I go in and I got a new car and I got to take this stupid thing back because the seat ain't working, I'm not happy. How do they treat me? Did they say they were sorry? Did they give me a loaner car for the day, or at least drive me to my office and pick me up that night to pick the car back up? Did they offer me a donut? Right? These are key things to see how I'm going to evaluate the product. So what the marketer does at every step of the process, the marketer asks, how can I guide the customer through this step so that at the end of the step, they're thinking my product instead of somebody else's? Yeah. Step by step. So, how important is the decision? That's going to help determine whether it's a high involvement or a low involvement decision, and how fast we're going to go. You go to buy a piece of gum, right? You're in Quick Trip, and you think, I'm going to have this mask on during class. And you're like, my breath isn't really fresh. So you think, I need something for my breath. Do I want a mint or do I want gum? You said, I want a mint. Notice you went through search, alternate evaluation. Which one do I want? So you look at the different mints, you pick the spearmint, you hand it to them, they ring it up, you pay, you walk out, you stick it in your mouth, and you're like, oh, this is going to make this class a lot better because I'm going to smell something good the whole time. Yeah, you went through it like this. Oh, maybe I should also mention, this is one of the really big things branding does. Branding helps you speed through the buyer decision process. You bought it before, you know you want a Coke. So it doesn't matter what the price of Pepsi is, I'm going to drink Coke, right? So it speds you through every step. I'm thirsty, or I'm going to have a party, and so it's Coke. The answer is clear. I've gotten all the way to almost to the end. All I need to do is put it in my cart and go buy it, right? And then what did they try to do? They try to tempt you to reevaluate and buy those Pepsis, okay? Change your decision. So what's the impact? What's the danger of a mistake? What's the impact to me personally? What's the impact to others? So for me, buying my wife's van was a high involvement decision that I thought the impact to me is her not liking it, the impact of her, I didn't want to make a mistake. But it was a low involvement decision to her because she wasn't going to suffer. So one year I wanted a camera. It was about 10 years ago. I wanted a camera for Christmas. So I'm looking, I told her I'm going to find what I want. So I go online and I'm searching all the different cameras and all the different things. And I'm spending 3 months every night. And she's watching me as I'm looking up cameras. She comes home one night and says, I bought you a Christmas present. I said, no, I wanted a camera. Yeah, I bought you a camera. Where'd you buy it? CVS. It was on clearance. It took pictures that had 4 megapixels. I'm looking at cameras that do 32 megapixels at the time. That's like, and I could have gotten 32 for the same price. What's the impact to me and what's the impact to others? Thanks, honey. Of course, I joke about my wife. She's the sweetest thing. If I'd have bought a bad van, she wouldn't have complained. I would have been torn apart. And I had gone bought her another van, probably a brand new one this time because I've screwed up, right? She wouldn't have minded. I would have minded. Yeah. How fast am I going to go through this process? So let's go back to that initial car commercial. Let's watch another car commercial. You guys tell me, what stage is this trying to approach for selling a new VW? Post-purchase evaluation. I mean, this is a brand new car they're talking about you buying, and yet it has 79,000 miles on it. So what they're saying is 5 years from now, you're still going to be really glad you bought this VW. Post-purchase evaluation, you are a really smart car buyer. you are a really good negotiator. They spend millions of dollars for that. Why? Well, in a lot of states, you know what you can do with a new car that you buy for 3 days? You can take it back. Well, what happens if you take that car back? They're going to take it back and they're going to do what with it? And how much do they charge? How much less do they charge because you drove it off the lot? $6,000 maybe? They lose $6,000. You can buy a lot of television commercials for that. Also, they want you to think good about it because you're going to evaluate this thing. And there are 3 key reasons we want people to have good post-purchase valuation, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. So let me go through this quick. We're getting close on time. So I got 4 minutes. So problem opportunity recognition. So you recognize there's this discrepancy between what you have and what you want or need. So you're motivated to go solve that. I told you I'm going fast. It will be if you need to, it'll be on the cameras. Here for search, notice this evoked set. The evoked set. The evoked set is when you think of buying a product, problem opportunity recognition, your mind immediately goes to certain things. So I want a soda. Your mind immediately goes to Coke. That's your evoked set. For me, I may think, okay, do I want a Coke, a Pepsi, a Dr. Pepper, or a root beer? And my evoked set is wider ranged, right? So what do you immediately think of to solve that problem? Let me skip this. I evaluate the alternatives. And here the key is that the marketer gives you the criteria where which to evaluate so that when you come to decide, you decide on their product because their criteria, that criteria that they've given you, they end up as a better answer than the alternative. Right? Purchase decision. So you've narrowed it down to a few. How do I get you to decide? Well, for about 17% of people in the United States, price is the last determining factor. Evaluate everything else. They got it down to 3 or they got it down to 2 and suddenly, boom, it's on sale. I got it. That's what I'm getting. Okay. Purchase that. Do I need to do something to help you? Do I need to put you under pressure? Do I need to get you to sign something? If you ever do sales, the number one thing you want to do is close. And that's where you try to get the customer to say, yes, I'll buy it. Even if they've given you opposition, you try to get them to buy. Right? And then post-purchase evaluation. Here, notice this cognitive dissonance. Cognitive thinking. I think dissonance badly. We have a tendency to be negative. And I look for what's wrong when I buy a car. I look for what's wrong. Suddenly I'm listening to the sounds and suddenly it has a creak and it's like, oh no. We have this tendency to think badly about it and that develops buyer remorse. And I'm sorry I bought the product. So for my last slide, there are 3 reasons that post-purchase valuation is so vitally important. Number 1, I want you to rebuy. I want you to not have cognitive dissonance because I want you to buy this product again. This is extremely important. I've got to get you to buy it again so I make sure that your post-purchase decision is good. So when my son sells somebody AT&T services, he calls them up the next week and the next month and the month after that, see if they got any problems and any issues that he can solve. Because he wants them to make sure that they keep coming back. Number 2, you don't want them to return the product. Oh man, I sold you, but if you bring it back, I'm dead meat. I mean, I get it back and what do I do with it? You think about you buy a toaster from Walmart and you take it back because it's broken. What's Walmart do with it? A lot of times they just throw it in the dumpster. And then they have guards over their dumpsters so that people aren't dumpster diving. And number 3, word of mouth. If you have a problem with a product, how many people are you going to tell? On average, 7. If you have a really bad experience with a product, how many people are you going to tell? 19. If you like a product, how many people do you tell? On average, 1. If you really like a product, how many people do you tell? On average, 3. We have a much greater tendency to tell people things are wrong than we do things are great. Your boy, are you going to find that out when you're at work when you find everybody complains? Everybody complains. Nobody's paid enough and everybody's overworked. Everybody, right? Even the lazy people. So we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. You guys have a great weekend. See you guys.